Welcome to another video from Gradelink websites. In this video, we'll go through how you can adjust the hover color for different areas of the website. For example, when you hover over an item on the navigation, how do you adjust the active hover color, as well as if you have a button to adjust the hover color for the text as well as the background. Lastly, we'll also briefly cover how you can adjust the button color for forms on the website, which is done through the CSS code on the website. For example, this button here under the contact page. So 3 separate areas where you can adjust the hover color for different elements. Depending on what they are, we'll walk through those steps. So the first step we'll show you is how to adjust the color of the active navigation item. So for example, you can see it is currently gray. If we enable Visual Builder on any page, we can actually edit the color of the header. So hover over the header and you should see a green area where it says Edit Header Template. Click on that and that should display the entire header in the editor, including if there's a grayed out section here, that means there's a hidden navigation for the mobile version of the site or mobile and tablet. So anytime you see grayed out when you're in the editor, that means the section is there, but it's only visible on certain devices. So for the navigation hover color on the navigation menu here, we're going to want to hover over the navigation menu module, wherever that is on your particular site, and click on module settings. You'll see this come up, the full width menu settings, or if you have a regular menu, you'll see menu settings. Content contains in the menu here, and we're going to go ahead and click on design. Then we're going to click on menu text, and the first option you see here is active link color. So if we make this like a beige, you'll see that that beige is now being used. If we make it yellow, that means the active, whenever you're on a particular page, it'll show up as yellow. But I'm going to keep it gray for now. Then the other thing is the actual hover text is, if we scroll down a bit in this section under menu text color. So currently it's white, and then the hover text is gray. So I can adjust that, and you can see it's going to turn it into yellow on hover. Of course, in the editor, the hover function doesn't necessarily work 100% of the time, but you'll see it live on the site. So I do want to keep this gray, so I'm going to change that to gray. Make sure you have the hover option selected. Then we're going to click on Save Changes and save the page. And that's going to equate to having gray hover text. Now, if we go over to the home page where there's a button that we want to adjust the hover color for, click Enable Visual Builder. And usually hover color applies to things like buttons or navigation items. So in this case, we'll hover over the Book a Tour button here, click on Module Settings, and again, we're going to go to the Design tab. Typically anything to do with colors is under the Design. Then click on the Button tab here, and Button Text Color. So currently we have that set to white, and then the hover color is set to a gray. If we want to make that yellow, then you can see when you're on hover, it'll look like that. It'll show you a preview there. We're going to leave that as dark gray. For the background, we still want, the original background on this button was actually dark gray, but as you can see, it's the same gray as the text, so you don't want that because then you won't be able to see the text on hover. So we'll make this a lighter gray, and again, it's with this hover option selected. Now, in order to toggle that on, you need to hover over button background, click on the hover option, which is a mouse cursor, and then click on hover, and that's where you can adjust the color specifically for the hover option. Then click on the green check mark to save changes, and you're all set. So we can actually do that with this admissions button as well. Click on the button settings, design, button, and then we can see there's this beige here, so we're going to click on the hover, and then we'll change this to a dark gray, and we'll click on hover for the button background and change that to the light gray. So then we can click on the green check mark to save those changes, and we'll just make some adjustments to the rest of these buttons. If you're in a pixel button grid setting, it depends on if the color was assigned for the entire set of buttons, because with a pixel button grid you can actually have multiple buttons. So you can check on design, button style. If you see this set to no, use custom styles for button style. If that's set to no, that means that the colors are assigned to the individual button, which means rather than checking the main design tab for the grid settings, we'll click on the settings icon for the particular button first. So click there, then go to design, then go to button style, and you can see that this is where the styles are assigned. So then we'll click on hover, and we can see this was actually already adjusted. So you can see, look, that's where you adjust the hover text, and then the hover background style, you would again select hover if it isn't already, and then you can make your adjustments. Click on the green check mark to save changes, and you're going to have to click the green check mark again because we were previously editing the individual button, and we also have to save the overall button grid settings. Let's check on these two right here. Click on the module settings. This is another button grid. This one actually has 2 buttons, and we're going to check on the design tab for the grid settings, and indeed button style is set to no, so that means we have to edit the individual button styles. Click on the settings icon for the particular button you want to edit, click on design, button style, and we're going to check on the hover color here, and it looks like it's already set to dark gray, which is what we want. So you may have buttons within call to action settings, so it's the same principle. Just click on the settings icon to pull up the settings module or a pop-up window here. Click on design, then click on button, and then your hover styles are going to be in here. So click on that mouse cursor icon to, and again, if you need to activate this, so you don't see this right now, so it's simply a matter of hovering over this area right here, button text color, and that's the same as activating the mobile, except you're going to click on the cursor, click on hover, and then there you are. So we'll do the same thing for this. Click on settings, design, go a little faster here, click on hover, and make the text gray. Design, button, hover, make the text gray. And there we have it. So that's, now you know how to adjust the hover color for the text as well as the hover color for the background for any button within the module. So we covered call to action module, we covered a basic button module, and we also covered the button grid module there. Last but not least, we're going to go through how do you make adjustments to the styling for the buttons on contact forms. So if we go to contact, we can see here's our form. The button is red, and then the hover color is basically white. So this one's a little bit more advanced. We actually have to go into the CSS. So I'm going to open up the backend or front end editor of WordPress here. It's not in the visual builder. I'm going to go to Divi on the sidebar, which is all the way down, so you may have to scroll, and click on theme options. From there, you're going to scroll all the way down on the general tab, And this is where we have all the CSS, and it's pertaining to a lot of different areas of the site, so you kind of have to read through this. If you're unfamiliar with code and you don't feel comfortable editing this, please just reach out to Gradelink website support. We can make adjustments to the CSS for you. However, if you are familiar with CSS and you'd like to make some adjustments here, this is where to do it. So the key is anytime you see something with G, P, NF, or GF, that refers to Gravity Forms, which is the form builder that's used for typically all the forms on the website, unless you're using a third-party form for some reason. But typically anything on Gradelink websites is going to be built with great Gravity Forms for any type of the form. What we adjusted on this one is add entry. That's for, so the add entry one is actually pertaining to the button style for lunches, the lunch program. So I'm going to have to pull that up as an example here. So there's a lunch ordering form on this website, and if we go take a look at it, so the add entry form is pertaining to this right here. So click add lunch. That's the button it's referring to specifically. Is anytime you have a nested form, which is what this lunch ordering form is using, and it has like add ticket or add lunch or anything like that, then this is the styling for that particular button. And the color of the text is designated by this attribute right here, color, and right now we have it set to white. The hover color is always going to be when you see the styling. If there's a button that has hover styling, so for example, it says button hover styling, we have notes here, then you're going to have an attribute called color, and we're going to set that to whatever we want it to be. In this case, it's the gray. Next button, that's referring to forms that have a save and continue and next function, or pagination, meaning there's multiple pages on the form. Save and continue later button, and then we have some other CSS. So just be careful when editing this, as it can get a little complicated. But all of the hover colors for this particular site have already been set to the theme gray for the hover color. So that's all there is to this particular video. Now you know how to adjust hover colors for buttons and navigation, as well as contact forms on your site. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to Gradelink website support.